Good morning, good morning, good morning, friends. Welcome to Kindness Rising, your morning dose of hope, humanity, and heart, where we have more high fives and less rage bait for you every single day. And last week we talked about without a net, and this week we are building the room, a place where psychological safety and kindness and compassion rule. Yep, and we've all been there, right? In that room. Hey, PWR Power, welcome back. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. We've all been there. You walk into a room, something's gone wrong, the numbers are bad, the technology crashed, or a client calls, or even somebody just makes a mistake. It doesn't have to be at work. And suddenly everybody in the room becomes an expert in your facial expressions. Because before people decide how worried they should be, they look at the leader. That's unfortunate for me because there's been times when my face has made announcements that I hadn't cleared through my manager yet. But that's leadership. People don't just listen to you, they read you. Yesterday, we talked about how every room has rules. And today, every room has a temperature. And whether we realize it or not, the leader helps set it. Good morning, friends. Welcome to Kindness Rising. Let's build the room. Jess and Sully and PWR, welcome in. Welcome in. Absolutely. So glad you're back with us for sure. I hope everybody's having a great morning today. I'm doing much better. I didn't tell you all yesterday that I had a little accident. Let's just call it an accident. Sunday night into Monday. I fell out of my bed. What the hell? At 4:30 in the morning, somehow I hit my head on the nightstand, fell on my water bottle, bruised my rib. I don't know, 4:30 in the morning. I must have rolled the wrong way. It's kind of shocking, but I'm feeling much better today. Much better today. That was an interesting experience, to say the least. You ever fallen out of bed? It's the weirdest thing. Weirdest. Anyway, kindness spark. Let's get at it. I've been thinking about what happens when the room gets hot. The room does get hot. But not literally, although every office, everywhere you go, someone there's a person who thinks that like 80 degrees is chilly. I'm not talking about that kind of heat. I'm talking about pressure, bad news, conflict, uncertainty, music that's too loud. And suddenly the energy in the room changes with it. Here's the interesting part, though. People don't just ask what happened. They also ask, should I be worried? And often the answer to the question comes by looking at whoever has the most influence in the room. The leader, the boss, the parent, the teacher, the person everyone assumes knows what happens next. And sometimes that person has no clue what's going to happen next. But that's okay, because leadership does not require omniscience. It does require awareness. The crisis may already be hot enough. You don't have to add more heat. And if every problem becomes DEFCON 1, eventually people learn something. Don't bring small problems to this person. That sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Would you like to have no more small problems? Except small problems have a funny habit of becoming big problems. So bad news waits, a mistake gets hidden, or concern stays quiet. And eventually someone walks into your office with something that's been fermenting for 3 months, and you actually have a crisis. Your reaction to things teaches people something. If someone brings you bad news and you explode, the room learns. If someone disagrees with you and you become defensive, the room learns. If someone adds a mistake and gets humiliated, the room learns. And if someone says, I don't know what to do, and you say, okay, let's figure that out together, the room will learn that too. Now, it isn't about pretending everything is wonderful. Fake positivity is not leadership. You're not going to walk into a building on fire and be like, fantastic energy, everybody. Great work today. Yeah, let's do it. Sometimes things are really bad. The point isn't to deny what you're feeling. It's to recognize that emotions travel. You can acknowledge the heat without adding more heat. You can be concerned without becoming chaotic. You can be disappointed without becoming cruel. And you can say, this is serious and still communicate that there's a problem and that we can work on it. Because people don't just hear what leaders say, they absorb how you respond. And sometimes the most valuable thing that you can bring into the room isn't an answer, it's a thermometer. That's today's Kindness Spark. Good morning, Shepherd Chapel. Let's pray and turn God and trust. Yes. Okay. Sully. Nice. Sully's given Jess advice on how to take the Honor Society. Sully, your video to me yesterday, that was inspiring to say the least. I appreciate that you took time to send me a message. That's amazing. That's how it gets done. Absolutely. And let's talk about our who in the world. Let's change our vibe a little bit every day here on Kindness Rising. For those of you who don't know, perhaps how am I going to say that? Alicia. I'm the worst at reading people's names, but I love it. Alicia Domino, 1268. Hello. Welcome to Kindness Rising, your morning dose of hope, humanity, and heart. We wake up every single day, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, to get you going in your day. And if you're in a different time zone, it'll help you keep going that day, whatever the case may be. And every day, who in the world? We have a little contest. 3 clues for you throughout today's session, where we will reveal a person who leans into our subject. And here's our first clue for today. This person never held elected office, but Americans look to him for explanations and answers to big questions. That's our first who in the world clue. All right. And next, let's do it. We're keeping rolling. We're going to keep the pace flying today, apparently. That's okay. I feel energized because I feel so much better than I did yesterday. So thank you. Thank you, God, for healing me. Okay, let's do a wait that happened. We have a fun one today. Every day we highlight a little something that happened on this date in history. And today we're talking about something that happened in 1973, August 11th, 1973. There was a back-to-school party held in the recreation room of an apartment building in the Bronx. The address, 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. Does it mean anything to anybody? There was a party. It was organized by Cindy Campbell and her brother Clive Campbell, who was better known in his community as DJ Kool Herc. He provided the music, and he'd been experimenting with something. He noticed the dancers really responded to instrumental breaks in songs, so he began using 2 turntables, moving back and forth between records to extend those breaks. And that party has become the foundational moment, perhaps the moment that began the birth of hip-hop music. Think about that. Nobody walked into that room saying, okay, everybody, tonight we're going to help launch a global cultural movement. No, it was a party, a room, some music, some people, experimentation. Something happened, and then something grew. And that's what's beautiful about building the room. You don't always know what people are going to create from the room. You just create the conditions, and then where something can happen. And sometimes the thing that happens can change the world. That's what happened on August 11th, 1973 in a rec room in the Bronx. That happened today. All right, the birth of hip hop. Joseph Play Games, welcome to where I come every day. Where I come every day. Yes, I do come here every day. 1973, the birth of rap and hip hop. I'm not sure if rap began. Yours truly, Todd, guessed Benjamin Franklin. Not right. Okay, we'll keep going though. Stick around. I'm going to give you a second clue shortly. Second clue coming up shortly, right after our kindness spotlight. Stick around. Sugar Hill Gang. All right, awesome. I'll do the rap for you in a minute here, Sully. Today's kindness spotlight, though, every day on Kindness Rising, we highlight an organization that's doing good work for good people, and today is no different. Kindness spotlight goes to an organization that has spent decades helping people become better leaders. There it is. The Center for Creative Leadership for all things humanly possible. Yes, it's a nonprofit organization focused specifically on leadership development and leadership research. And what I really like about their work is this: they don't treat leadership as something you either have or you don't. They treat it as something you can develop, something you can practice, something you can even get better at. Their programs work with leaders at different levels, from emerging leaders to senior executives. They've been doing this work for more than 50 years. That connects directly to what we're talking about today. Because setting the temperature of a room isn't some magical personality trait. It's actually a leadership skill. Self-awareness can be developed. Listening can be developed. And how you respond under pressure can be developed. And maybe that's the important reminder to all of us. You don't have to wait until you become magically a better leader. You can practice becoming one. And that's today's Kindness Spotlight, the Center for Creative Leadership, helping leaders build the skills to create better rooms for everyone inside of them. That is them. All right. Let's get to our second clue after we get this off of my stage. Get off my stage. All right. Second clue. We're talking about who in the world, going back to this person never held an elective office, but Americans look to him for explanations and answers to big questions. Here's your second clue. Consistent daily presence made him a thread in the fabric of mid-century America. Never held an elective office, but brought answers and big questions with consistent daily presence that made him a thread in the fabric of America. All right, that's your second clue. Let's keep rolling. Having fun today. Our upbeat, high tempo, get off my stage. Oh, I gave you the third clue, I think, just there accidentally. Oh, well, someone will guess it. That's all right. Still fumbling around with those buttons. It is Walter Cronkite, yes, and we'll talk about him again. Absolutely. Research Corner. I got to get a little serious now. A little serious. No, not too serious. It's important, though. Researchers have a rather clinical term, actually, for something that every one of us has actually experienced. Emotional contagion. Basically, mood spread, right? Humans are emotional Wi-Fi. One person walks into a room furious, and you feel it. Someone walks in anxious, you feel it. Someone comes in carrying doom, and suddenly everybody's preparing for a meteor strike. But it works the other way, too. Someone stays grounded or asks a good question. Someone says, okay, this is difficult. What do we know? The room can change. This matters in leadership because people watch leaders differently. When something goes wrong, they're looking for those clues, those cues. Is it dangerous? Are we blaming someone? Are we telling the truth? Are we solving the problem or just finding someone to punish? And that means your emotional response can become information for everyone else. Again, it's not an argument for emotional dishonesty. I'm not asking anyone to pretend they're happy when they're terrified. I'm just saying your emotions don't stop at the border of your body. They enter the room with you. So think about what happens when someone brings you bad news. If you immediately get angry, they may learn, don't bring bad news. If someone tells you they made a mistake and you humiliate, they'll learn to hide their mistakes. Yep. Your reaction will teach people whether the truth is safe. And sometimes 3 seconds can change everything. Bad news arrives, and before your face files that official report, pause. 3 seconds, not to fake anything, just enough time to make sure your first emotion doesn't accidentally become everyone's problem, because calm doesn't mean unconcerned. It just means being available. That's our research corner. Emotional contagion. All right. How's it going out there in Kindness Rising land? Everybody's doing all right? You guessed the answer. All right. Oh, we were talking about the Sugar Hill Gang. Let's take it back there, right? Was it a hip hop, a hibbit, the hibbity, hip hip hopper? You don't stop, a rockin' to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogity beat. How's that one? Pretty good little rap there. Now what you hear is not a test. I'm a reppin' to the beat. All right, Sugar Hill Gang, definitely. That was the first rap I ever heard. I remember Ernie. I talked about Ernie. I've talked about Ernie. Ernie had the record. His older sisters had the Hill Gang record, and I remember sitting in the living room going, "What is this?" and listening to it over and over and over again and memorizing the lyrics. You ever go over to a friend's house to eat and the food just ain't no good? I mean, the macaroni salad and the peas all mushed and the chicken, it tastes like wood. All right, I am not a rapper for sure. I'm definitely more into the Grateful Dead, and that is what we're going to talk about next. Grateful Dead segment. Here we go. There is a lesson hiding in the Grateful Dead, inside their inspiration, and I love this one. All right. Bobby Weir. Bobby Weir once talked about a particularly adventurous version on stage that the Grateful Dead played. Was playing in the band, and when he remembered it, he quoted his answer when someone asked him. The question was, "How did you feel?" And he just said, "I was scared. I was scared." I love that. He was playing music and he got scared because it was going to places he didn't plan. The structure started dissolving, and they didn't have a map. Nobody necessarily knew where they were going or exactly how they were getting back. And they didn't stop simply because it became uncomfortable. They listened, they watched each other. Somebody suggested a musical direction. Somebody responded. Somebody else moved, and slowly the room found its way. That's not pretending that uncertainty doesn't exist. It's saying we don't know exactly where this is going, but we're still in this together. And that is such a powerful distinction. Leaders can't always remove uncertainty. Sometimes uncertainty is the reality. Sometimes the plan really does break, and sometimes the music does go somewhere strange. But our job isn't always to immediately make everything comfortable again. Sometimes it's simply to keep discomfort from becoming panic. Because you can be uncomfortable without making the room unsafe. And that's what the Grateful Dead did on stage. There's the connection. All right. Let's get to our third clue, even though we've already guessed it, and then we can talk about Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite. Sometimes that's hard to say. Yep, it's true. He was never elected, and millions of people relied on him for answers. He showed up every day, making him a thread of the fabric in mid-century America. And lastly, his nightly sign-off became one of the most recognizable phrases in television history. And that's the way it is. All right. Not a very good Cronkite impression. The impressions and the raps and everything else is coming out. Mom, you still out there? You probably remember a lot about Walter Cronkite, my guess is. You got to experience him in all of his amazingness. He actually signed off for the last time in 1981. I didn't know that. In 2009, he passed away. So he lived for many years past his official sign-off, but definitely one of the more famous faces in news history. We talked about Joseph Harsh last week, but apparently we're on this journalism kick. Yep, Walter Cronkite. I mean, who hasn't seen some of his most famous announcements? I mean, particularly John F. Kennedy's assassination and a few others for sure. All right, let's get to our kindness compass, and then we'll talk more about Walter Cronkite or anything else you really want to talk about. I don't care. I do care. I care, but I want to make it partially your show too. Yesterday, Mom and I were talking about the show yesterday, for those who stick around, and she's like, that was really cool. You said I got some time here, and people just started filling in with ideas and thoughts in the chat. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we're building here, a community at Kindness Rising and Mornings in the Lab, where we get up every day, support each other, and make the world a little bit more positive. And here's today's Kindness Compass. Check your temperature. Before you enter an important room today, ask yourself, what am I carrying into there? Is it frustration, anger, anxiety, calm, hope? You don't have to change how you feel. Just notice what you're spreading. And if somebody brings you bad news today, try that 3-second rules. Pause. Notice your face. Notice your voice. Notice the first question you're about to ask, because everybody else probably noticed too. And ask yourself one more thing. What does this moment need from me? Not what more emotion am I entitled to? Maybe you're completely entitled to be angry. The better leadership question is, what does the room need from me right now? You can acknowledge the heat without adding more heat. So check your temperature. That's today's kindness compass. All right. Cool beans. All right. Yeah, well, it was Walter Cronkite, CBS Evening News, and one of the most trusted voices in America through the Kennedy assassination and Vietnam, the moon landing, moments of enormous emotional uncertainty. But I think what made Walter Cronkite more powerful wasn't just the information. It was the way he carried it. Steady, measured, calm. He understood something every leader should remember. Your reaction becomes part of the information. And sometimes the setting the temperature means simply being steady enough for everyone else to face the moment. This is Roseanne. My grandparents never missed his show. And of course, we always had a few stations to watch. Easier for making choices on both sides. I love that. Mom encouraging people to see all sides of the coin, regardless of your perspective, because it's very easy, particularly in today's media, to get sucked into one message loop, for sure. All right, Walter Cronkite, Morley Safer. Yes, I remember Morley Safer. Is he still around? He's got to be passed. Later for the TV show 60 Minutes. Yes, Sully. So many of these journalists that have become part of our lives over, especially those of us who grew up with evening news, right? I mean, it depends on who you watch, but you had Dan Rather and you had Ted Koppel and you had David Muir and you had Anderson Cooper and you have whoever else is out there in the world. I don't know. I guess I'm probably revealing who I watch more than anything. Anyway, yeah, absolutely. The people who deliver our news to us and the way we receive the news, receive that message, is the whole vibe right here on Kindness Rising. How much does this set the tone and the temperature for the day? It's why I do it. It's why I show up. This sets the tone and the temperature for the day, and it helps me to bring better leadership to my life wherever I'm asked to lead. Absolutely. All right. So once again, we're left with some extra time. That's really cool. Some great ones, of course. It's always looking back. It is always looking back. Absolutely, Mom. And Jess is saying, miss only hearing news a few times a day. Yes, certainly the 24-hour news cycle has inundated us. But you can make choices too, Jess, about how much you choose to expose yourself. I'm starting to make more conscious choices about my time. I've put the phone down. I used to be a phone in bed guy right before I go to bed. I put the phone down. I think it's going to help me. I think it's helping me to sleep better. I started reading books again. Oh, books. Fantastic. Pages with paper and words. No. I just picked up guess who I picked up a book about? The Grateful Dead. Yep. Sweet Chaos, the American Grateful Dead Adventure is what I'm reading currently, written by a woman named Carol Brightman, who brings an interesting perspective. I thought it was an interesting perspective. I've heard all the Grateful Dead stories from all the people who are insiders. She was tangent. She was part of the crew, kind of hanging back, and she was actually more involved in some of the free speech and leadership movements out of Berkeley and some of the other places, and the acid tests and all that stuff in the 60s. But she does it through the lens of the Grateful Dead because of her connections to them. Okay. Sweet Chaos, Grateful Dead American Adventure. I've only just started. I can't tell you whether it's good or not. It is interesting. Okay. All right. One other thought that I had, actually, Sully, I've been thinking about you with this one because you have always mentioned to me in the past, and I've kind of gotten away from the Ken Kesey. Yes, he's a huge part of this book, Sully. She is, and Mountain Girl and the whole pranksters. That's a huge part of this book. Yep. Sully, yeah. You said you missed the fandom Fridays. Well, those were fun, right? Gen X fandoms. I was thinking about our subject and what movie connects, or what did we connect to that reflects this subject. What happens when a leader walks in the room versus what happens when the leader's not in the room? Can you think of a movie where people acted differently when the leader was in the room than when they were out? From our childhood, March 24th, 1984. Does that date mean anything to anybody? Shermer High School. 5 kids walk into a library, a brain, an athlete, a basket case, a princess, and a criminal. And supervising them is Vice Principal Richard Vernon. Yep. Remember, Vernon comes in the room and they're all fighting with each other. He expects trouble. He treats the kids like they're trouble, and things escalate. They all get defensive and sarcastic, hostile and secretive. Then Vernon leaves. He brought that energy into the room because then they started talking to each other and laughing, challenging each other, smoking pot in the library, whatever they were doing. They were revealing things that they would never have said 5 minutes earlier when Vernon was in the room. Talking about pressure from their parents and fear and insecurity and loneliness. And those labels start falling off. And here's the leadership question hiding inside an 80s movie about detention. Does the room get better when you walk into it or when you walk out? Because your title doesn't make you the thermostat. Your presence does. All right. Checking back in. Oh, the electric Kool-Aid acid test. Yep, that's Ken Kesey, of course. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and All Creatures Great and Small. I've read them all. Absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff. Ooh, I like that one, Sully. The room gets better when we find the common denominator. For me, I think the common denominator, holy moly. Apparently, it's not speech therapy. The common denominator is kindness. We're here being kind to each other, waking up with energy, with hope, humanity, and heart. It's part of the Mornings in the Lab network, and we get it going every single day. So that, to me, is the common denominator. We're living it every single day. Kindness is the common denominator. And that's it. That is the show for today. Anybody got anything else they want to share or say? I am open to it. We've got a couple of minutes. I've got my little thread available, but I don't know. AMA, or AMA means ask me anything for the uninitiated. Get it going. All right. What's everybody up to today? What's everybody up to today? Anything fun? I'm headed to financial aid with one of my kids to try to figure out how we're going to figure out how to get that taken care of. And I don't know what else we're doing. I'm just going to keep working away here and taking care of business every single day. All right. That's what we do on Kindness Rising. Absolutely. Let's weave the thread for you all. Weave it, weave it, weave it. We know my favorite band. What's my second favorite band? Oh, wow. That's really, really hard. It changes over time. I get obsessed about other bands and then just focus on them. I went through a Fish phase. I went through a Widespread Panic phase. Not phases. They're now part of my fabric of what I'm listening to. What I'm listening to right now, a lot, is Camp. CAAMP, Camp. They're awesome. Definitely highly recommend you check them out if you don't know them. I saw them in concert a couple weeks ago. So I'd say camp right now is my current music obsession. Let's weave that thread as promised. Look at that. Time has flown by here talking about fans. I love that question though. Yesterday we learned that every room has rules. Today every room has a temperature. DJ Coolherc helped create a room where experimentation became something nobody predicted. In the Breakfast Club, we watched what happens when authority adds heat instead of safety. The Grateful Dead could wander into uncertainty because they kept listening to each other. And Walter Cronkite, he showed up every day bringing calm and presence. That's leadership. You can't control everything that enters the room. The bad news will come, technology will fail, the plan will break. But before you act, remember, everybody may be reading you. So don't add heat just because the room is already hot. Bring what the moment actually needs, because sometimes the most important thing a leader contributes isn't the answer. It's the temperature in which everyone else can find the answer. I hope you guys all have a great day. Stay uncommon and stay kind. See you real soon.